correct. This is Mrs. McHale. So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain the factors that affect total fertility rate in human populations. To do this, we're going to describe total fertility rate and explain the factors that impact total fertility rate. So to begin, total fertility rate is the average number of children born to a woman in her lifetime. So this graph shows what trends there's been since 1950 and what they predict will be in 2050. So the world here was at about 4.7 in the 1950s, and they expect by 2050 will be down to 2.4. America is down in this more developed regions. We're at 1.8 currently, so right about where we're expected to be. We see that Africa generally in the 1950s was at almost 7. Currently they're at about maybe 3.5. So why is there a difference between total fertility rate, that average number of children in America, versus African countries or the world as a whole? So total fertility rate is impacted by the age when women have their first children. So we've seen over time that the age of first child has increased. So women are having children much later than they used to, which reduces the number of children overall. In the United States, we see this occurs very regionally. So we see in New England that the average age for mothers is between that 26 to 30 age range, whereas in some places in the South, it's much closer to 22 to 24. Definitely pockets which are related to our next topic, which is educational and career opportunities for females. So studies have shown that for highly educated women, motherhood begins in the 30s, having children later in life. As we said, what age when women have their first child decreases the overall total fertility rate. So high school or less, many of them are having children under 30, and as you increase your degree up to a master's degree or higher, many more are waiting till 30 or older to have children. Access to family planning has shown to have a huge impact on total fertility rate. This graph is from Indonesia and shows their campaign called The 2 Children Are Enough, where they encouraged methods of family planning and contraceptives. And in 1975, their total fertility rate was at 5. By 2019, it was down to 2.3. So very successful policy. This also connects to government acts and policies. So this was a government act to reduce their total fertility rate. Was very successful. We've also seen this in China with their one-child policy. And there's also cultural norms. Norms to have children younger in your life, to have more children, but I found this one particularly interesting. The relationship between Chinese zodiac signs and birth timing. And the average amount of births and total fertility for given zodiac years are very high when you're a year of a dragon, and apparently nobody wants to be born in the year of the snake. So that also affects total fertility rates. So what is replacement level fertility? So this is the rate at which a population replaces itself from one generation to the next. So you'd think this would be about 2, right? 2 parents need to have 2 offspring just to replace themselves. So that's our ideal. Should be about 2. In reality, it's closer to 2.1 because you have to account for infant mortality. So a population that is stable has a replacement level of 2.1. So populations that are stable, such as in the United States, remember the age structure diagram, have that big pillar, or like a hill. Populations that are below replacement, meaning they're having less offspring per woman on average, to replace the parents, have this mushroom cloud. So their pre-reproductive group is small. So we see this in Germany, Japan, Brazil. When a population is growing, their total fertility rate is greater than 2.1, and a rapidly growing population, as we saw in Liberia, has greater than 4. So another part of the total fertility is our infant mortality rate, which we call IMR. And this is deaths before age 1 per 1,000 births. This is affected by many things, but it's most strongly linked to nutrition of the mother and the child, the access to clean water, the sanitation, and going back to that, what affects the total fertility rate in women is that access to good health care and education. So if we look here, a lot of the continent of Africa and over here in India and the Middle East, we have higher rates of infant mortality. It's much lower in Canada. It's a little bit high in the United States. The United States has actually a higher infant mortality rate than other comparable countries, and this, is not widespread. It definitely is related to access to good health care and education. As we see down here, it's very dependent on the state that you live in. So to summarize, total fertility rate is impacted by educational opportunities for females, access to family planning, and government policies. For a stable population, replacement fertility is 2.1, and infant mortality is also a product of educational opportunities for females, on top of nutrition, sanitation, and access to clean water.